This is the Bear Country Outdoors Barely a Podcast. I'm your host, Doug Joyce, and with me is James Forsland and Chris Cantrell. Thanks for joining.
Welcome back, guys. We're here in the butcher shop over at James's house. We just wrapped up cutting up my buck that I shot this last weekend, and we're reaping some of the rewards here, eating some deer steak, and it is mighty, mighty good, guys.
I know. We've had some good tenderloin, some backstrap, maybe a little bit of hindquarter, kind of just a little bit of everything.
And sorry if we're just looking like a bunch of Neanderthals eating with our fingers, but it's too good.
We've been picking at this deer for the last 3 hours.
Yeah.
Doug just kept cooking and me and Chris kept cutting.
It's just too damn good. Good stuff.
So
We got a lot coming up. We're going to wrap up the season here. We're also going to wrap up the first season of our podcast as well for the year.
It's kind of crazy.
Looking forward to another season of that. It's going to be a good old time. So stay tuned.
And sorry that we haven't been on it lately. We've been really busy trying to finish out our hunting season.
I've been in a dark place.
We'll get more into that story.
Get more into that story. It's coming. But before that, why don't you? Why doesn't someone spill the beans a little bit more about the film coming out?
So, we, Bear Country Outdoors, have a we have a film. We have like a legit. It's a movie. It's a film.
It's a full-length film.
It's a full-length, feature-length, son of a gun. So, to kind of preface this, anyone who hasn't ever tried to make a movie, like a legit movie, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Like,
I was going to say, do you want to bring up how much it costs?
yeah, like you want a new pickup truck or you want a film? And we're not talking a gas pickup truck either. We're talking a diesel pickup truck. Like It's super expensive and it's a lot. It's a time commitment.
Mm-hmm.
It's a financial commitment. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of back and forth and hardships and all sorts of. So
a lot of planning.
Yeah. So we
The mental stress too, because you're thinking about it on top of that. Is trying to have a successful hunt too.
Yeah.
Which you have no control over.
Yeah. Exactly.
there's been some ups and downs, Doug.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Some ups and downs.
100%. Yeah.
But we got it done and we're right on the verge of
It's almost
releasing.
complete.
Tell us about the details about
So February 9th, the Lincoln Theater.
Save the date.
Yeah, February 9th.
this. February 9th.
Lincoln Theater. It's a Friday. Friday, right? Is that a
Yep,
Friday?
Friday
Yeah,
night.
Friday
Yep.
night. Yeah, yeah. So doors open at 6. Film starts at 7. Tickets are $25. And people are going to say, geez, $25 for a film. That's a lot of money. Number one, no, it's not. But we're going to give away a shit ton
Yeah.
of stuff.
That's part of the reason why we're having tickets be $25 is because it's going to be worth it because we're planning on giving away a gun, right? Of
At
some
least,
sort.
at least one gun.
At least one gun. And we're going to give away some other really cool prizes. That
We have a
people are gonna
bunch of stuff. So obviously this is kind of it's been a work in progress, but we're going to reach out to some of our sponsors, which I'm sure we'll get donations from. So we're going to have it's going to be like, if I had to guess, we'll have like 10 grand worth of stuff that we're giving away.
Mhm.
So, if you don't want to win 10 grand worth of stuff, don't spend $25. Don't come because you're not our guy. You're not our people. You're not our
Right.
gal. That's fine.
It's going to be worth it. And,
$25 like one beer now in a bar.
and a lot of people probably are wondering like what this film's going to be about. And honestly, the message itself is worth the film.
Why don't you give us a like a cliff notes.
Just like
Give us a cliff notes.
a quick rundown. So as most of you know, we're very big advocates for predator management. We're big advocates for bear hunting, and not only bear hunting, but showing the benefits of bear hunting and the benefits of conservation and hunting in general in trying to put that in a different light for the general public. So in this film, we kind of try to punch home the message of, hey, we're hunters.
So good.
This is our lifestyle. This is what we stand for. And this is how we utilize, like the meat and everything. And a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot more involved with bear hunting than just shooting a bear and putting a rug on the wall.
Right.
For us anyway, and for a lot of people. And most people that I know that bear hunt, they use the animal and they use, as much of it as they can. And I think
like this, we used some bear fat to cook this deer in.
That's right. We cooked all this deer that we're eating right now
So
in
good.
bear fat, and it's really awesome. So we're gonna try to make this film a success and get through to as many people as possible, and hopefully this will get in front of some new faces that maybe people that are not so familiar with hunting, and try to portray us in a good light. So
I think so. So James said before the podcast started, he's like, we're not going to talk politics. Yep. So we're not. And I feel like a lot of people that are anti-bear hunting could possibly lean potentially, maybe, I don't know, more left. And hopefully some of those people realize like, hey, what the TV says isn't always true. Like maybe these guys have a good point. Like, hey, every person on the planet right now has come from a hunting background, whether you like it or not. If you're a vegan, guess what? Your ancestors hunted. That's how you got here. So we're just trying to get back to our roots, so to speak, and just show people like, hey, like this is what we do. We hunt and we eat, and it's fellowship, and it's camaraderie. It's everything involved. And I think that
We're also doing a public service type of thing too, because I made a note that we're also helping all of the locals too, because a lot of people have range cattle in a lot of areas.
There's
that
a
we go
lot
hunt.
more to bear hunting and predator management than just
Especially
the benefits
predator
of
Just the
hunting.
hunting, yes,
in
100%.
Washington State, holy cow, what a mess we're getting into. But not to get too deep into that, because obviously we have a wolf and soon to be grizzly bear problem. But as far as the bears are concerned, like, yeah, they're an alpha predator in Washington State, and you need to management. I feel like, I'm not a biologist, but at the same time, like, I listen to what they say. You have to have a management plan for the predator population. You have to have a management plan for the ungulate population. When you drop the ball on one, which we're kind of doing right now, not to get back into the politics with our game commission, but when you drop the ball on one, say, for instance, hypothetically speaking, the predator population, and when they grow and you leave the ungulate population, the management plan the same, and you change it for the predators, then the predators overtake the ungulates, and all of a sudden you don't have an ungulate population to hunt anymore. Weird. Now we don't have any hunting seasons for anything.
And in the ungulate, they also have very many different variables that they have to deal with too. Like recently, we had a bad case of the blue tongue in this state, and that wiped out a lot. And we had some really hard winters, and that really was a big deal.
Right. So if you don't compensate for the hardships and stuff on the ungulate population by managing
shows,
predators, it can turn bad really quick. But
Yeah.
so long story short,
I'm looking forward to the film, though. I think that we all worked really hard. We did a good job.
well, and the other thing too is like this is a public film. Like this isn't a public, like a private invite event. This isn't like hunters only. Like we're putting it out there. It's advertising to the general public. I mean, we paid an advertise, fee.
If Lorna Smith wants to spend $25 and come learn what it is to be a
bear hunter,
like, come on up. I'm totally open to it. Who knows?
Right.
Maybe it'll change your.
I think
her
there's a
thought
good
process.
chance that we might end up with quite a few people that are just randomly going to. I mean, posters are going up all over in our area. And I'm not sure if they're putting them up in like Whole Foods or like,
where they're going.
We're gonna find out.
We're gonna find out.
So it's going to be interesting to see what crowd comes out of this. And, honestly, I'm kind of excited for it because if we're going to majorly reach the masses, we need new people to see this kind of stuff and experience it and have their eyes open to it.
And hear our message.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, then eventually we're just going to get chipped down to nothing. So
We need some change. That's for sure.
yep. We got to hit the public. But February 9th.
February 9th.
Doors open at 6. We may possibly do some sort of early VIP something. We may possibly do a week early VIP viewing. We're doing this podcast a week before Christmas, so you can imagine like the mayhem.
There's a lot of brainstorming going on.
There's a
with
lot
what
of
we
stuff
wanna
going
do.
on. I haven't even started Christmas shopping yet, and my wife and my daughter are going to murder me along with the rest of my family. So, so you could imagine. But I think we're all really excited.
I'm excited.
Yeah, we've worked really, really, really hard on this.
It's been a long season, and we're all ready to
Kind of close the chapter on this
close
film.
the chapter
and
on the film. Yeah.
reap the fruits of our labor, I guess, and see where it takes us.
Speaking of seasons
And fruits of labor.
and those of you who are not blacktail hunters, it's, I would say probably like if you were going to like rank it on a scale of 0 to frustration, it'd be probably like 37 above the frustration thing.
That's the truth.
It's a fact. If you've never had it, it's like coos deer times 10. I feel like
Right.
sometimes, right?
Oh my gosh.
You know, because coos deer is like all in the open, and guys talk about how tough coos. Bullshit. Like you sit on a hill in glass. Like yeah, they're not easy to see, but like blacktail, you hunt them in the Western Washington rainforest. Good night. What
Yeah.
a pain in the butt.
Good luck.
They literally are the ghosts of the woods. Like I have never even heard one. Like even in all the time that I've spent out there hunting,
I've never
when
heard-
they've come into
I've
wherever,
never-
I've
I've never
never
heard
even
one.
heard a peep.
No.
No.
They're
Not unless you blow them out.
Absolutely
Yeah.
silent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're this terrain that they live in, the areas that they like to hide in, their bedding areas, forget about it. Like you're not getting anywhere close to their bedding areas.
No.
Like these animals are the pinnacle of a challenge when it comes to hunting deer.
I think we should start with James because he's the first one who filled his tag, and then I'll go.
Oh yeah, we didn't have a podcast after that.
Yeah, so James filled his tag.
I'll make mine really quick because my story's not that interesting.
Oh no! Don't count him out. It's pretty good.
And then Chris will go, and then Doug will finish off with the killer story.
Either way,
So this podcast might go a little long. So
they're all the blacktails are just a crazy
So,
species. That
it's funny because all three of us had multi-season tags this year. All
Yep.
three of us hunted multiple species of deer this year, and all three of us ended up shooting blacktails this year.
Yep.
We all finished off with blacktails, and there's a reason for that. I mean, we were hunting seasons that were pretty challenging for whitetail and for mule deer,
Yes.
and none of us
100%.
found the right buck to put a tag on during those seasons. So,
It's a tough go.
you know, both Chris and Doug had target animals, like animals that they were after. Me, I didn't care. I had a plan of shooting a whitetail, and that plan got shot down because of wolves. And so,
But we did a podcast about your Idaho trip, right?
yep,
Okay.
we already
All right.
talked about that.
Okay. So you shot a smasher blacktail over there already.
Or
So you
whitetail.
smash her
Or
whitetail.
whitetail,
Yes.
Yeah. So like,
In Idaho.
yeah, Dandy.
I was happy shooting a nice whitetail over there. I wanted to, be a little greedy and get a nice whitetail in Washington as well. But so fast forward to my unsuccessful deer season hunting whitetail.
Experimental. I think we'll go with the experimental.
For those of you who are listening,
Oh boy, it's getting rowdy, boys.
Doug and Chris are picking out beers right now, so they're not talking about experimental deer hunting.
Costco has a Voodoo Ranger pack that was generously provided by 12th Fan Carpet Cleaning. Thank you, 12th Fan Carpet Cleaning. It's one of our sponsors. If you need your carpets cleaned.
Heavily involved.
Heavily.
Snohomish, King County, Skagit County, Pierce County, Western Washington.
No, don't say Pierce County.
Don't say okay, all right. It better be a big job.
Yeah, King County is
It
about
better
as
be
far
a
as we
big
go.
job.
Better be high paying.
But thanks, 12th Fan Carpet. I personally use them. Thank you so much.
Same here.
Yeah, they're great discounts for the friends.
I'm a big fan.
So
Big supporter.
back to the story after our little sponsor shout out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got a nice whitetail in Idaho. Tried to double down in Washington, didn't happen. So I came back home, and I think at that point I was pretty much like I had so much going on. My life was crazy with work and with everything else.
We were past the modern season.
Yep, we're past modern.
We're past the what was it? The late season.
Yep, the late modern season
on the east side.
Mm-hmm.
And basically all that was pretty much left was Western Washington blacktail because
so we had
so late
muzzleloader, blacktail, and then it was followed right after.
Muzzleloader and archery were both.
Yeah, they were kind of overlapping.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So opening day, I think it was opening day of muzzleloader season. Yeah,
Heck, it was.
and this is, you know what?
Like 5 minutes into the season.
Yeah.
No shame, Jim.
No
shame.
I'm just going to let it all out there. This is what happened. Okay. So those of you who know me well know that I am not one to turn down a good yard deer when it comes around. On my property, if I get a buck and I feel like it's a good time to do it, that's what I like to do. It makes it really easy. I hunt my ass off all year long, and sometimes it's good just to take a nice easy one. So I'm literally walking out my door to go to work, and I'm not paying attention, and I walk out and I see this deer standing on my property, kind of off by the barn.
Right.
And I'm like, that kind of looks like a buck. So I run back inside and I grab my binoculars and I throw my binoculars up. I'm like, oh, it is a buck. It's not real big though. It's a 2-point. And I'm like, man, I am kind of done with the season. I'm like, it would be super easy and it would be good eating. I'm like, forget it. I was like, I just want to meat deer,
And they're so good, by the way.
Yeah.
They're so good.
Especially this one. I've been eating my apple trees all year.
What has he been eating?
Right.
Yeah. So I had this, it was standing at a, I don't know, it's not an apple tree. It's like some little tiny, it's almost like a crab apple looking thing. Right off the top of my head, I can't remember what it's called, but they're late season. And he's standing over there. And I go, okay, if he gives me long enough to go inside, grab my muzzle loader, load it, and then come back out, he's going to get it.
It's meant to be.
Yeah. And if he doesn't, if he runs off, whatever, it's not a big deal. I still got more time in the season to hunt. And so I go in, I grab my muzzleloader, I load it.
Chris is hungry.
I walk out. He's still standing there and he's looking at, now he's getting nervous, and I'm like, and he's like, I see you all the time because I've seen this buck probably, a dozen times.
Right.
And just gave him the pass, but I was done with the season. And
it was getting towards the end.
I didn't care, dude. I just wanted to fill my tag. And so I put the muzzle loader on him, and he's kind of giving me a frontal shot. And granted, I've never shot a deer with a muzzle loader. I've hunted the muzzle loader season, but I've never shot one with a muzzle loader.
Right.
And so this would be my first muzzleloader deer. And I put it right on his chest, and I'm like, that's, there's a lot that can happen with open sights. So I'm like, I'll aim a little high, like between its neck and its chest. And it's a big bullet, so it should do the trick.
Yeah.
And I pull off and I shoot. And of course, all you see is a big cloud of smoke. But I can see, like, as soon as I shot, I kind of took my eyes off of what I was doing with the gun and watched it. And it hit it right in the base of the neck. and it literally lifted him off the ground like Black Beauty style. And then he fell down and his front legs hit the ground and they folded. And then his back legs were still in the air. And then he just tilted over and he was just like deader than dead.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, man, these muzzleloaders are awesome. Because they're just a big slug,
Yeah.
They don't shoot super fast.
No.
But they're like getting hit by like a freight train. So it was super cool.
What was it, like a 400 grade?
I can't remember what grade the bullet is. It's over 300 though.
That's a lot.
That's a big one.
That's a big bullet.
So yeah, so I was super stoked, and then I got to have like the kids come out and look at it, like because they're getting ready to go to school and stuff. And I'm like, come here, hurry up, come out here and look at this deer. And then so they're all playing with it. Their hands are bloody, and they're getting ready to go to school. I'm like, go wash your hands, dude. It's the best.
Yeah.
Like I try to get my kids
Right there
involved
in
with it
your backyard.
as much as possible. Yeah.
Can't beat that.
And then you just grab a wheelbarrow and throw it in the wheelbarrow and push it over to the barn and have the electric
String
game
'em up.
voice, and it was nice. But then
Chris, then it got real interesting when all this was happening. This whole season, come from October until now, we'd been sending each other pictures
oh yeah,
of bucks. I don't know, probably every day.
just about every day. Between the three of us, one of us was sending a buck picture every day.
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
Mostly just you and Chris back and forth. And then I'd be like, well, here's my 2 points and my
Well, I think we're all pretty busy guys, right? Like, and
the later in the season you get, the tougher it gets. 100%.
it's
I think
tougher
especially
mentally too.
yeah, like,
Yes.
especially for blacktail. So, in Western Washington here, we are allowed like 10 gallons of bait or something like that, right, at a time.
Yep.
So basically, I put out a bag of corn, right?
2 5-gallon buckets.
Yeah, and a 40 pound bag of corn is like, it's less than 5 gallons, but like I'd put one of those out, and I figured, like, in my mind, this is how I justify the financial cost of it is like,
I don't even think about it.
I think like, oh, maybe I'm helping the deer, like maybe there's one sickly deer that's going to make it to the winter because I gave it, this extra,
the extra
food source,
boost.
right?
Yeah.
Even though like where I live, there's shit tons of food.
There's so much food.
there's
The
so much
abundance
food.
amount of food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing ever really dies.
No.
It's mostly green here year round.
You can't fathom a deer dying of starvation where we live.
No.
Right. So I'm thinking like corn is obviously an incredibly highly dense caloric food, right? Like, so
Yeah,
like,
a lot of sugar.
yeah.
A lot
So
of the fats that they need.
So long story short, I bought a bunch of corn.
Mm-hmm.
How much I'm not going to tell you. It's embarrassing. It got laid with, it's forklift-esque. Like, okay.
I wasn't quite on.
how long-
I wasn't quite on that level, but I was getting close.
So how long were you feeding deer, and from what point? Because you're only allowed to put out 10 gallons at a time, so you put out one bag. Like
So I'm just
whatever
putting one bag out at a time, right?
But how long is it taking for them to go through that?
I put feed out for deer for 3 months.
Okay.
3 months worth.
See, pro tip right there.
It was almost a bag a week for me,
Really?
So I was putting out a bag.
but I
almost
was
every
also
day.
feeding about.
Really?
I
How
was-
many deer did you have coming in though?
probably 6 or 7 deer.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
6 or 7
that's
deer
about
would
right.
come in, but I would have 6 or 7 deer, and then I would have a night in a night, right? And then I'd have possums come in, and then I'd have squirrels, and I'd have raccoons, and I'd have all these other critters,
I was just gonna say the same thing.
coming in. And 40 pounds doesn't last a night. It would be gone. It
No.
would be completely gone.
Yeah.
So, a bag, like a regular, imagine like you go to the feed store, get a 40-pound bag, and then I started mixing it with molasses, and then it wouldn't last half a night, And so next thing you know, I got these morbidly obese animals running around my property, right?
And they started getting used to it. It's like as soon as that bag got cut open,
Oh, yeah.
they knew
Yeah.
because it started getting like that for me.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I would put out some fresh corn, within one day, the deer, they're hammering it all night long.
And I think we're all the same in the fact that I love seeing the animals, right? And it's not the fact that like I gotta hunt them and you know, like or if I was a, you know, anti-hunting type person, it'd be like murder them, you know. Even like, you know, it's like trapping season right now. I run the cameras. I pay the fees, right, for the cameras.
Yep.
Right, Doug, same thing. You know, so I pay, I don't know, $1,000 a year, probably more than that for cameras, and way more than $1,000 a year for feed, right? And so I'm paying all this money, and I like seeing my cell phone go off and saying, hey, you know, like. Something's at your bait. Whether it's a blue
fun.
jay, yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah,
whether it's a
you get
blue
to see
jay
what's in the
or
area.
a rabbit or a raccoon or, you know, whatever it is. Like I like, and don't get me wrong, like when the big buck comes in, like I really like that, right?
You really like that.
But I think for people who work a lot, like we all do, it's like a little reward, you know. Like,
well, and it's
giving back to the animals.
You know, there's a lot of people. So like, it's controversial, obviously, on the East Coast. Like, you can't bait deer or elk or bears or. Actually, no, I think they can bear bait, which doesn't make any sense. They can bear bait, but they can't bait deer.
Yeah,
but it's kind of flip flopped here.
It's the same thing,
right?
Yeah.
It'll eventually go away here, I'm sure. But for right now, we're gonna ride this train until we can't, because otherwise we ain't killing no big blacktail.
You will never.
I have gotten lucky and killed some nice blacktails, you know, but it's a lot easier to do it using bait.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like we're saying,
and some people are going to get pissed off at this podcast. The guys who bait that want to stay a secret are going to get pissed off. But that's okay.
Like, say for instance,
this is the truth.
Like to each their own.
The baiting versus not baiting thing. Whichever way
I honestly don't think that you could hunt blacktails in this state without baiting.
I mean, you can.
You
have to beat the piss out of it, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many areas that you could hunt them that is so thick that.
But I think it's a risk reward thing. It's like, what's the benefit of us baiting versus not baiting? Like I said, like I'm feeding probably dozens of critters, right? And that's on my pocketbook. It freaking sucks. It's a shit ton of money. Like literally, like I'm getting pallets of corn at a time, right? And then molasses, and then all the other crap that I'm feeding these critters. And I just like seeing them. And I take one. I take one animal.
Yeah,
that's it. And I'm done. And I'm still feeding them.
Yep.
You know, like as soon as the snow hits, like I'm making sure that I have enough, like to keep that up through the winter. I'm just cutting them off and being like, haha, I gotcha. You know.
Yeah.
So I think that people who are anti-baiting have never really looked at it in the sense of like, okay, what are the benefits and, you know, what are the negatives? I'm sure that there's like like James had mentioned, the East Coast thing as far as the negatives go, like, yeah, the deer contact, because there was EHD and stuff like that, like like, yeah, that can happen, but at the same time, like, when they get that bad, it's gonna happen. Like, you know, when you get blue tongue and you get all this stuff, like you're not gonna stop it.
Right.
You know, a couple guys buying deer from Cabela's or corn from Cabela's to feed the deer that's not the catalyst, you know.
Right.
So no, definitely not.
Well, so now that we've talked about the technique here.
Technique.
Let's get to the good stuff.
So Chris was the second one to fill his
Washington
tag.
It was a long road.
So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us, how did this happen? Let's hear the story.
So we need some special effects right now. Let's bring you back, and it's like burp, 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 burp. So in 2022, I had a very intimate relationship with a buck for months and months and months. The same thing. feeding these deer.
I think it caught me under its spell too. I think I spent
Yeah.
some time.
Yeah, Doug spent some time too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Doug tried to kill that buck too.
And,
I forgot about that.
Yeah. I ended up shooting a doe, but
I mean,
I put some meat in my freezer and she's mighty tasty.
That's right.
That's what we're here for.
Sometimes
right?
you're just okay with just shooting a smaller buck or shooting a doe or
Yeah.
whatever and just filling your
Yeah.
tag, and that's good.
The thing is, if these fur pillows weren't filled with such delicious interior meats, like
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah,
dude. We're eating it
100%.
right now.
So this buck, so those of you who don't know, I have a very jacked up plate in my left arm. I had some horrible surgery down in Overlake Medical Center, and my arm is incredibly crooked, and I still have to get it fixed. But so I have this giant plate in my arm. My bone is very crooked. There's a nerve problem, and I can't pull my bow very effectively. It's incredibly painful, and I'm archery hunting this deer last year, and I knew he looked a little young, but he had just a smasher rack. I mean, like a really, really, really nice.
When you see a big blacktail rack, it instantly gets you
going,
Yeah.
right? But you could tell it was a young deer, right?
Right.
Like 3.5-year-old deer, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like.
I'm in the similar boat.
So I'm watching this deer, and long story short, we have this very long, intimate relationship, back and forth. He'd be there, he wouldn't give me a shot. I would be late, he would be early. He would be early, I would be late. Like we're doing this dance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, it was like down to like the last day or two, I think.
Mm-hmm. Last couple days of the season.
And I have some incredible footage of me like full draw with my bow. And I could have probably tried and snuck a shot in there. But as Doug knows, and as I know quite well, I had shot a deer the year or two years prior.
The year was it the year? It was the year before, I believe.
Like close. Like, so this shot,
like 10 yards.
Yeah, this shot's like where I'm hunting now is like 30 to 35 yards, and where I had shot this deer before was like 15 yards, and I'd shot and the deer ducked, and it's classic. Doug can attest to this, is when these blacktails, their reflexes are so fast.
Oh yeah.
Incredibly fast.
I'd probably say they're faster than a whitetail.
I would say they're faster than whitetail for sure.
I'd say so
100%.
too.
And we have Doug has footage to prove it this year. Like, holy
Twice.
cow.
Twice.
And
That's coming.
like as soon and we're shooting really quiet, like we're shooting carbon fiber, the PSE, like the really nice
Levitates.
yeah,
Yeah.
like these are nice quiet bows, right? Super
Yeah.
fast.
State
Very,
of the
very
art,
fast.
brand new, top of the
Yeah.
line. Yeah.
And these deer, like they duck the string to a point to like where we're shooting low, and they pull that front leg back. And
Mhm.
I, 2 or 3 years ago when I shot that deer, and I hit it right in the elbow, right?
Mhm.
And then we had to track this deer, and it was
It deflected it.
It was a shit show.
Like totally deflected the arrow
Yeah.
back and like ended up
Yeah.
gut shot.
Yeah,
And that was a long.
That's the only benefits of having a heavy arrow.
yeah. And I mean the deer
like that
the deer
happens.
died like, I don't know, it was probably like an hour or whatever. But like, I mean, we're talking in the middle of the night. It was dark. We're in a rainforest. It's steep. It's up and down. It's thick. It's disgusting. It's wet. So, anyways, fast forward.
So you don't want to do that again.
You don't want to do that again. And I'm full draw on this bow, 30-ish yards, right? And so I'm standing there. I feel good. I've been shooting, and the deer is there, and his deer's walking, and the deer's alert. And I'm like, oh yeah, like if he ducks this freaking arrow, and then and a million things are going through your mind. It's 100% different versus shooting like a muzzleloader or a modern rifle. So
They don't have a chance.
long story short, I don't lose the arrow because I'm like, I don't feel comfortable, right?
Right.
So this fast
Which
forward,
is a really hard thing to do.
so hard.
It is hard.
It's so hard.
And it's a good buck, right?
Yeah.
I know it's a young buck, but it's a good buck. And fast forward to 2023, and I'm checking the cameras, and my neighbor, who has 40 acres above me, probably a mile above me, sends me a picture of a buck, and I'm like, oh, that's a good buck. Like this buck, this is like the Arnold Schwarzenegger body of deer. I mean, like this thing is yoked. It's huge. It's thick. It's massive.
It's
not
like straight body to head.
Yeah, like
Yes.
not a huge rack by any stretch of the imagination. Not a huge rack.
It's a nice buck, though.
It's a nice buck.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to shortchange him, but I want to focus on the size of this deer's body. Is probably the biggest blacktail I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's, I would say, pretty darn close to 300 pounds in the hoof.
Oh, easy.
I mean, and
he's
that's
right around that 300-pound mark. Maybe
It
even
is
more.
huge.
Mhm.
Huge, massive. And if anyone wants to debate me on this, I'm not going to send you pictures, but if you want to come to my house and show me what a 300-pound deer looks like, I will show you the pictures on my phone what a 300-pound deer. And I've killed many 300-pound deer, so I can show you like, okay, this is what I'm gauging this against. This deer is this big, and then the deer that obviously I shot, and I know how much he weighs. So, long story short, I see this massive deer, and I'm like, oh my god, like this is a grandpapa of deer.
Yeah. And you can tell he's older.
Oh, super old.
Yeah.
Super. I guarantee his rack was bigger a year ago or 2 years ago. Like he's old. Like if I had to guess, I bet you I'm going to say he's 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's that big.
No, I think you're probably right.
He's massive. Massive.
There's no way he's younger than 6.
No. And the thing is, he has a very distinct kicker. And the deer that I shot with James multiple years ago had this, and we called him Kicker, right? Or Stickers.
Mm-hmm.
Like has this weird, very unique sticker off the back of his antler.
Mm-hmm.
So this other deer comes in, and I'm like,
Son of a gun.
wait a minute, that's not the same buck.
Yeah,
Because
because it was definitely, you could see how thin his neck was compared to the other
Oh
one.
yeah, it was
Oh, yeah.
small. His body was way smaller.
Yeah.
And then I get to looking at the trail cam pictures a little more, and I'm like, wait a minute, this deer has eye guards. The other deer doesn't have eye guards, and they have the same freaking sticker. One's on the left, one's on the right.
Yeah.
Same exact sticker. And I'm like, son, like this is like the grandson, or this is the son,
Right.
this is
Yeah.
whatever, right? So I'm hunting him, and I'm getting pictures, and I'm texting Doug, and I'm texting James, and I'm texting James, and I'm texting Doug, and I'm like, I just missed him. I was right there, and then I left, and then
It was
he showed
aggravating
up, and
to
it was
watch.
just
I'm at work and he's on the bait.
Yeah.
Like,
Doug always did like, ha-ha face, ha-ha. And I was like, son of a, you know what?
I mean,
Come
I mean,
on.
that was the story of the whole season. It seemed like they were there and we weren't.
Yep.
it was. I'm seeing him, and I would be like minutes away, like I'm working down south, and I'm driving back, and I gotta go. My daughter has a cheer competition, in Anacortes, so I'm going from like Smoky Point to Anacortes, and I'm driving by my exit. And my phone goes ding ding, and I look, and it's that buck at the feeder. The feeder's going off, tick, 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 tick. And I'm like, I could just stop real quick. I could be the worst dad in the history of the world and miss my daughter's cheer competition, but I didn't stop, and I just kept going to that cheer competition. And I'm like, oh man, this deer is just. It knew. It freaking knew every single time.
Yeah, I know. You'd always text me like, I've been at the house all week, and then this happens right as soon as I left.
As
Like,
soon as
God.
I had to work, like I'd have to go show a house, or I'd have to go do this or whatever. I'd have to go to cheer competition. And then I think it was a Sunday.
You probably would wait until you heard your diesel fire up and be
I
like,
think so.
I'm good to go.
And come out.
Yeah.
Right?
Those deer are so smart.
They're so freaking smart.
So smart. They're reading all kinds of different things.
Stuff
are
that
going
people
on.
don't probably
100%.
even think about.
No, 100% for sure.
So I think it was a Sunday, and I was like, all right, I'm getting up early, right? So I get up, it's dark. I grab a cup of coffee real quick. My wife's like, what are you doing? You know, she's half vampire. She doesn't sleep. So She's already up, and I'm like, I'm going out to the deer blind. I'm going hunting, and she's like, okay, well, sounds cool.
She's like, good luck.
So I go out there. It's dark. It's like 6:00. I sit there till like 10:30. My coffee's obviously gone. It's cold. Like, I just got up and left, and I'm like, this sucks. Like, the deer didn't come in. No deer have come in. I'm super irritated. I've been watching birds all day. But the house is like 80 yards away. So I'm like, I guess I'll just walk over to the house. So I go back to the house, get another cup of coffee. And I'm like, oh, I'll have some food. And I'm sitting there, and my daughter's like, hey, what are you doing, Dad? I'm like, oh, I'm going to go back out to the deer blind. And Dawn kind of looks at me and my wife. And I'm like, hey, kiddo, you want to go with me to, go like hunt deer? And I'm doing air quotes, hunt deer, because it's not like,
it's a good break-in though.
Yeah, like
you have the best redneck blind there is.
Yeah. So she's like, yeah, I want to go. So my daughter's 8, and she goes upstairs, and like 10 minutes later, I'm yelling at her from downstairs. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Like, what is taking you so long? She's like, I'm getting my outfit on. And I'm like, put something warm on. We're going right now. The deer are going to come. I know it.
So I don't have time for this.
So she hurries up, comes downstairs. She's got purple mittens on, a pink jacket, like just like the classic quintessential hunting gear.
Yeah,
right?
I love it.
Perfect.
And so I'm in this big hurry because the deer are going to come. So we get to the blind, we sit there, and it's like 3 hours go by. Not a single deer, right? So by this time, we've done stretches, and we've done yoga in the blind. And she's told all these dad jokes, which are hilarious, pirate jokes. And then she like fell asleep on me. And so I'm sitting, and we can't like really see out of the window. So I'm like sitting in this chair. And I had my phone, and I would take my phone and I'd turn the camera on, and I would like pick it up above so I could see through the window, right? And I'm looking up to see if there's any deer, right? And I bring it down, and then I sit there, and it's like she's sleeping on me, and she's like this little furnace, if you're a dad,
Oh, she's like, sleeping on you, so you're trying hard not to fall asleep too.
Yeah.
Because I am definitely have a problem with sitting in the blind and falling asleep. It's really bad.
Oh my god!
Doug, this is the real story of what's happened all season.
I've fallen asleep for so many hours in the blind. You sit there and see nothing for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
Nothing going on.
No, and now I got this hot little human on me.
Yeah, nice little heater. Like, oh yeah.
So I pick my phone up, and I'm like, oh, there's a deer there, right?
Yeah.
And I have this freaking piebald white doe that's coming, and she's not like your traditional piebald. Like, she's very much like almost like albino, but a little bit blonde, right?
Yeah.
So
she's like in between an albino and
a piebald.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't have a pink nose. She doesn't have pink eyes.
Very light blondish color hair, which is so strange.
Dude, it's a stunning deer. So anyways,
yeah.
I wait, Gloria, there's a deer there. And she's like, and so she gets up, and she looks, and she's like, oh, Dad, are we going to shoot that one? I'm like, no, not that one. We want that one to have babies, right? Because I wanted to make a bunch of these little cool deer.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited about this deer because we've been watching it for a long time.
Yeah.
And then
super rare.
I have the brand new Leupold, the BX4 range finding binoculars, right? So I've been, and it's not that, we're shooting 35, 36 yards. It's not that far.
Right.
But the glass is super good on these binos, right? So as most people know, like, I'm usually looking through my swirls. I have the swirl, the EL range, and surprisingly, like these Leupold binos are like comparable to these, the glass wise, like it's super good glass.
Yeah.
So I'm like, like, Gloria, do you want to look at this deer? And she goes, yeah. So I like squeeze the eyepieces together, and I put on them. She's like, oh my gosh. And it's like, it's incredible how clear these binos are. Like, it's really, really good. So she's 8,
Yeah.
looks through the binos and is like, holy cow, Dad, like, this is so cool. She's like, do you want to look? And I'm like, yeah. Of course I want to look. All 35 yards away,
Yeah.
So and I get the binos and I look and I'm like, man, these are like really good binos, and I'm like clicking the buttons and farting around with them, and just up to the right of this deer, I have this big huge tree which a game camera is mounted on, and just to the right of the tree, I'm like, what is that? And I see like a hoof underneath the tree, and I'm like, Gloria, there's another deer coming. And then I see this deer duck to get underneath the branch, and it's a buck, and it's a good buck. And I kind of freak out a little bit. And I'm like, so I got the binos in my hand, and I instantly put the binos down. I look at her, I'm like, Gloria, we gotta be quiet. Shut up. No one says a word.
No.
I'm like,
Don't move.
don't move. And so it's and again, it's bow and muzzleloader season, but my arm's jacked up, so I can't shoot my bow. So I got James's muzzleloader. James is like, I own a gun shop, and James let me borrow his muzzleloader, which is awesome.
It was the only time I've been of use to Chris for anything.
So I have his 50 cal muzzleloader set up already in the I got a Field Optics tripod. It's freaking awesome. Totally ready to go. And I'm like, okay, you gotta she's got these purple mittens on, right? And I'm like, put your hands over your ears. It's gonna be loud. I'm gonna shoot this deer. She's like, we shooting this deer? I'm like, I'm shooting this deer. And I get on, and I had this whole plan about like how like the deer was gonna come in and which direction I wanted him to stand. And I was gonna shoot him in an exact spot. So if he ran off, he would go this way. And the deer took one freaking step into the sunlight. Boom! And I freaking hammered him with that 50 cal.
Yeah.
And just dropped him.
Yeah.
Just right there. And I have this big like Moultrie feeder, and this freaking butthole falls over and kicks my Moultrie feeder over, breaks it, right? And like kicks the shit out of it. And my daughter's like, Dad, you got it. Because again, the big cloud of smoke comes out, right?
Right.
And she sees this deer fall over and kick my freaking feeder over. And we're hugging and high-fiving, and she's just super jacked. Like, it was the coolest moment.
Right.
Freaking, like...
Because this was her first.
Oh, very first,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she's 8 years old. She's,
Yeah.
like, never really been on a deer.
It's like, so this is what it's like, huh, Dad?
Yeah, like, and it wasn't... I mean,
Yeah, right.
like, it's...
Don't get used to it.
Yeah.
Why do you always go on big, long trips then?
Yeah, for a month, Dad, when you could just do this right out of the house.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So we went out and took some pictures, and it was super awesome. And honestly, it was like James was saying, I'd never shot a blacktail with my muzzleloader. I've shot way more blacktail with my bow than I have anything else. I mean, probably a dozen, and I don't, maybe one or two with my rifle, and never with a muzzleloader. And I shoot this buck, and it was my biggest buck that I've shot.
I know.
With
Dude,
my-
it was a
with my
dandy.
kid. Yeah.
And like you were giving Doug shit this week about being a big man with a little buck, or being a big man with a big buck and it looks average,
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing with that buck, because when I went and looked at it, I was like, oh yeah, it looks like it's a nice buck, and when you put it on the pictures and stuff, and then I go and look at it in person, I'm like, damn, this is a nice buck. Like,
It was pretty good.
it's a lot bigger than I thought it
for
was.
a Washington blacktail. I mean, let's be real. I mean, you see a lot of pictures on the internet of some
Right.
blacktails.
Yeah.
I mean, it's record book size, easy, like
For
Washington
this size,
book.
yeah, for the state.
Both of you guys
100%.
killed like really nice record book size blacktails.
Yeah, the characteristics that your buck had was
Super
really
cool.
cool. Yeah.
It's so those of you who don't know this, I posted on Doug's picture, and so Doug shoots his smasher blacktail, and I post poor Doug, and people were probably like, "What are you talking about?" What people don't know is like I'm 6'4", 265. Doug's like 6'4", 280. And it's
I'm bigger than most species out there.
yeah, and his shoulders are this big, and so the problem is you shoot anything,
I'm going to make it look small.
Yeah, and you take a picture with your critter, and people are like, "Oh, that's an okay buck." You're like, "No, this is a really big buck."
Yeah.
You know, like if I was
just because I'm way bigger than it doesn't mean it's not big.
yeah, like if I
was holding it up, it looked like just the biggest buck of all time.
Like it's funny because like when I brought my buck over here, James's kid took a picture behind it, and the buck just looks huge.
Yeah, I know. Like I'm gonna hire Kevin Hart to take all my pictures.
Right? Maybe I just need to shrink myself. Like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Just to sit behind the buck.
That's why guys long arm it.
That is why.
I was trying to. I was like, I had my arm extended when I was holding them up.
That's so awesome.
So I was buck number 2, and then Doug,
and then in the meantime,
Doug had been.
The funny thing is I actually my story, which we're going to tell now, began actually 3 years ago. I had been keeping tabs on this buck.
Yep.
And
I have the proof. If I go through text messages, I have pictures of this
how
buck
many
for the
pictures
last
of
3
this
years.
buck I've had is incredible.
Yeah.
And then had tons of pictures of him last year, and he was really starting to show out. And I gave him a nickname Junior because he reminded me of this huge blacktail I had on camera the first year I was hunting in this place.
Which was probably, honestly, his dad.
Probably.
Yeah.
100%.
Because it looks exactly the same almost.
Yeah, and he is a complete symmetrical blacktail that...
Almost a whitetail rack.
Yeah.
Like a 3x3 with eye guards. So
yeah, he had eye guards ever since he started growing. And last year I had tons of pictures, had a lot of cool pictures of him in velvet. And he was really getting me excited, and he disappeared just out of thin air right before the season started.
Yep.
And he was gone all the way for a full year. He was gone. Never had him on camera, nothing. And then
classic
end
blacktails.
of this October, that same buck shows back up, and oh my goodness.
So you thought he was dead.
I thought he was either dead or he was just gone.
Just gone.
Gone. Because I've had a couple bucks just disappear on me, and you have no idea. Because I'm hunting on 40 acres, and it's all surrounded by a lot of, people that probably hunt too. Which I actually ran into that this year. Just kind of a funny story. The neighbor shot the buck that I passed up twice in one day. But anyway, so this buck Junior, he shows back up end of October. So I'm back over there, and I passed up on a smaller buck that was probably his offspring.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up disappearing. So he probably got shot too.
Yeah. I don't know.
I was playing cat and mouse with Junior for, oh my gosh, so many days. There'd be days where he showed up in the daytime probably more than I could even remember. Mm-hmm. Almost a dozen times he showed up during the day, which is
it's so nice when those mature bucks start showing up in daylight. But
it gets your hopes up.
Yeah.
And it's all about being there. Because if you ain't putting in the time, your chances are not going to be good. And I probably put close to 20 sits in this year just for him. And there was a lot of days where I saw absolutely nothing all day long. Sit there, see a bunch of squirrels come in. And then finally, after I waited until the late season came around, and I already hunted in October.
This was right when muzzleloader opened, right?
No, it was the late season for modern.
Oh, that's right.
Because there's 4 days in November before Thanksgiving weekend where it's modern season.
Yeah.
And I went and sat that whole time, and I passed up a 3-point that was probably Junior's, one of his sons, because he had the same exact characteristics as Junior did when he was younger. He was at 3x. He was about to split. You could see he was starting to grow an eye guard. And I was like, I can't do it,
2.5-year-old deer.
Yeah, 2.5-year-old.
Yeah.
He was a really nice looking buck. He was super healthy. He had a big old body on him. I passed him up twice.
I was giving Doug shit too.
As I was walking to my truck, all of a sudden I hear a bang on the property next door. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, because that buck had just walked right over there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow, okay. Well, this is gonna be my hunting season. I know where this is going. So I'm playing cat and mouse. It was super tough. Talk about most stressful and like just the mental aspect of trying to hunt these creatures is just unbelievable. Like, you really gotta knuckle down, even when
you just have to commit.
You just have to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
You push through the struggles. So here comes Thanksgiving weekend, right? I'm planning on going over east and hunting on the east side Thanksgiving weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Because there wasn't really a whole lot. I wasn't getting a whole lot going on. And Thanksgiving night, I get pictures of a new buck that I named Forks, who has got forks on both sides like this.
Mm-hmm.
And Junior shows up, and he's a big 4x4, right? And then tons of does. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I really don't. So ended up decided to stay home and not go over to the east side and hunt over here. That morning at 8 o'clock, sure enough, Junior shows up. And I'm like starstruck that this is happening, right?
That, like, he's there.
The target buck that I'm waiting for finally shows up, and I'm sitting there for
2 years you wanted to shoot him.
Yes, 2 years I wanted to shoot him. Yeah. He finally shows up. He comes in. He never really gives me a broadside shot. And from all of the pictures that I saw on camera, he was only there for about 10 minutes. He would eat for 10 minutes, and then he'd be gone. So I knew my time was short. And when he came in, he just started eating immediately. And he never really moved or turned or anything. So I'm like, well, I either got to make a shot or he's going to walk out of my life.
Yeah.
And to preface this, where Doug's sitting, there's like a hump, and you can't, it's not like that. They're none of the same plane. The deer is below them, but there's a hump of earth in the way.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, it's not an
like
ideal.
you can see him, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like,
So
you can see his back.
Perfect shot.
So the view from the camera is actually higher than where I am.
Right.
So, and then not only that is the fact that, like he said, it's not just a hump, is because my buddy, he built this flat spot, and it just so happens to be like right where my hunting spot is.
Right.
And I kind of changed it up because I actually have a tree stand in there, but I decided to not hunt out of the tree stand, and I put a blind in because I know how nasty the weather is.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of rainy
if you're spending
days.
all day in the blind, you want to be comfortable.
Yeah. So he gives me a 1/4-2 shot, and he never really turns fully broadside. I'm like, okay, I'm going to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
He's got his head down, and we're talking, it's probably 27 yards.
Okay.
I let her fly, and what does this deer do? He ducks my arrow.
Yep.
I hit him,
Classic.
but where I hit him, you wouldn't believe, it hit just below the spine and went out the other side and didn't do a damn thing.
Oh, no, it wasn't below the spine.
No, it was below the spine. It went underneath the spine.
So, did it go? Because from the, well, we know because we dissected.
So either way,
it came in above the spine and then came out below
deer
the spine.
where the perspective of where I am, he's still below me. I'm still shooting downhill.
Yeah.
Whether or not like what it looks like, the angle in the camera, he's still down below me. And it hit him just below the spine. It went through. It didn't look like it hit any bone.
No.
We thought it did.
From the sound of the
'cause it
video,
sounded like-
it was so loud.
Sounded like
It
a
sounded like
2x4
it hit
snapping.
like a really big bone.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then he took off. And oh man,
You could see in
it
the
was such a
footage.
wild,
Soul crushing.
the emotional roller coaster was crazy. I'm sending
for a while.
I'm sending the video to James. Like I'm taking video of the camcorder. Like it was so bad.
He's like, "What do you think about this?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's hard to see,
It
but
was super hard to see. So I'm like, all right, well, I don't know. He ran off.
we knew you hit him though."
I knew I hit him. So I went home. I put the footage on my computer, blew it up, put it in slow-mo, did all the stuff. And sure enough, I was aiming like, if he was quarter, I was aiming kind of like right here.
Mm-hmm.
And when he ducked the arrow probably like almost a foot by the time it got to him from where I was aiming. So it went from basically hitting here to hitting about halfway down his body and came out just in front of his back leg, right?
But not didn't go through the gut. Didn't go anything.
hit anything.
Didn't touch a single
Didn't hit
vital organ.
Nothing.
Which we got to look at.
Which was really crazy.
It was super crazy.
So the next day, I let him lie, but he actually never laid down.
No.
He just ran off.
Decided
So I went.
let him overnight.
I let him overnight. I went back in there, and I never found any blood until I was close to about 100 yards away from where I shot him.
But before that, you did call James and say, "Hey, do you have a blood light?"
Mm-hmm.
And James calls me, "Hey, do you have a blood light?" And I'm like, "No." So I get on Amazon. I buy a blood light that night. Overnight it. By the way, they're pieces of shit. Okay?
Don't waste your money.
Buy a blood light. They're garbage. What? A waste of $100.
Oh, gosh.
Don't do it.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
And what's even better about that is actually, because once I finally did find blood, but it was so far away from where I shot him, I was already kind of like, I don't know about this. And it was just spots.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't finding like big puddles of blood anywhere. He never looked, it never seemed like he stopped.
Well, and even from a flesh wound, they can bleed quite a bit at times.
Yeah.
But then eventually
it looked like he never stopped. Like he was on the run, and then eventually he started
It probably
walking.
gave him it was like, ow, what was that? And then he just kept going.
Yeah. And then it finally petered off to where I couldn't see anything. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know. So what should I do? My buddy's gone that lives there, the house or the property I'm hunting on. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like, oh, maybe my dog will help. You know, he's never really done this before, but he's a hunting dog and he's got a nose on him like you can't believe. So I go and get him. I show him. He sniffs the blood and he can kind of tell, you know, gives it a little lick. The dog just is a hunting dog. And sure as shit, he's kind of following the path of where the blood's going. I know where it is, obviously, because I followed it until I couldn't figure out where it went anymore. And my dog went the exact direction I went. And that blew me away. I was like, oh, well, that's good to know.
Right.
And it got to the point to where the search kind of was like, you know what? There's no more blood. I'm not finding like a lot of blood. Right. I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm going back in my mind thinking about the shot. Was it a fatal shot? Was it not? Are we gonna find him on the neighbor's property a week later? Yeah. You know, it's a gut shot. Like
it looks like it to me, like, you know, you're obviously armchair quarterback at this time, right? So like Doug shoots this deer, he sends us a video, I watch a video, I'm like, ooh, that doesn't look good.
Yeah.
That's real. It's high and it's back. And it's like, it's surprising to me that it doesn't spine the deer, right? Like, I'm like, man, how did he not spine that deer?
Yeah, right.
Because it's high enough. It looks right there for a spine shot.
Yeah.
And then it's back. So anyone who's listening can imagine, like, we're talking boiler room. You got your diaphragm, you got your liver right behind the diaphragm. Then it's your guts, and it's like it's guts area, but it's above that. So even if you nick the guts, like,
yeah,
they can go.
Yeah,
they're gonna die eventually, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Doug shoots his deer, and I'm like, oh, dude, Doug, I don't know. Like, just keep on it. Maybe we'll look for ravens, or I don't know. Dude.
That was kind of where I was at. It's like I literally pretty much gave up, like, to the point where it was like, I'm not gonna find this deer, and I hope he survives, but the chances are that
not good.
Not good.
I'm thinking not good.
Someone's gonna, we're gonna be finding ravens circling, and
we had gone back and forth, and I think I told you at one point, I was like, Doug, there's a good chance that deer's gonna live. From where it got hit.
You know what's even funnier is I shot that buck at 8:00 in the morning. I sat there until about 10:30 thinking of what I should do, and then I went home. Come 2:00, forks showed up in front of my bait that same day, which was the other huge buck that was showing up over there.
The one that was way more inconsistent.
Yeah.
Huh.
Same day. Just showed up a couple hours later. It's like, shit. And I'm sitting at home on my couch because I just shot a buck, waiting to go in there the next day to go look for him.
Right. And there's that other one. So you wouldn't have shot it anyway because you would have thought, okay, there's a good chance that Junior's dead.
Yeah.
And
so like my mind is like literally ready to just explode. Like hunting is just like, it's dragging me down, like the worst possible way. So I'm just super down.
We kept sending Doug memes.
I go in there the next day, don't have any luck. We figure this guy's either gonna die probably in a week or two or whatever from his injury, and we didn't know, and we weren't gonna expect him to ever show back up. At least I didn't think he would ever show back up, but I shit you not, I thought he would. 2 days later,
bullshit.
2 days later,
James is not the glass half full kind of guy.
I said maybe he'll show back up again.
Maybe he will.
And the funny thing was I hunted that Sunday, and nothing showed up on that Sunday.
Really?
Monday comes around, and Junior shows up at the same time that I shot him on Friday, 8:00.
2 days later.
2 days later,
after getting shot through his body.
Yeah. So
I was shocked. I was like, I thought that there was a chance, but I didn't think 2 days later. I thought maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If he makes it.
The fact that he showed up at all is what blew me away. So
very surprising.
So that got my hopes up. Kept tabs on him. He showed up, I think, 2 days in a row, and then he disappeared for 2 weeks after that.
So he's dead.
So I thought he was dead. Right?
we were starting to think that, like,
we were starting to think that
he came to his injury.
The rut was pretty much over.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't kill him Monday, Tuesday because you're at work, right?
I was at work. Yes, okay. I got the picture, and I'm at work. I'm like, really? This is, of course, it's my luck.
Should have won the lotto.
It'd been like that the whole season. You show up in the daytime, and here I am at work. Right?
Sitting there pounding dirt with an excavator, and there's your buck.
Or I'm about to get in my car to go home, and the buck's there, right? And I'm an hour and a half away from me getting there. So it's like way too late.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, well, 2 weeks after that point come, and I don't know what to do, right? I'm like, I'm still pounding it out. I got to get out there because you ain't going to make it happen if you ain't putting in the time.
You're not going to shoot him from the couch.
No.
So I think you had texted me pictures of a couple little bucks that had just showed up over at your place. Yeah. And I'm like full on desperation mode, right? I'm like, if it's brown, it's down, So I'm like, all right, I'm going over there, Chris. So I made up my mind. I was going to go over to Chris's house. And I wake up the next morning and I look at my phone, and Forks showed up and a couple other does. And it just so happened that throughout like that whole time frame of this whole season, whenever one of those big bucks showed up, the other one showed up a couple hours later. It was really strange.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure it out why.
Some sort of a weird pattern.
Yeah, the pattern was always like the pattern was there, but you never knew what deer was going to show up.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do because my target buck never showed back up. Fork showed up, he's such a random buck.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got deer over your place. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to flip a coin. So I flipped a coin. And I knew in my gut that I should have just went and sat over in the place in my spot.
Yeah.
So I'm over at your place.
Because you flipped a coin.
Because I flipped a coin.
The coin said.
And the coin said to go to your place. So I did.
What an idiot, Doug.
I'm sitting there looking at my phone. Sure enough, at 8 o'clock, Junior shows up at my other spot. And I'm like, well, here we are again.
Here we are again.
The ultimate game of cat and mouse continues.
I remember going out there and talking to you. You told me that. And
well, not only that, is Chris forgot to unlock his shop that morning.
Oh, God. And we stayed out late. We did something the night before, like a birthday party. I don't remember what we did, but we stayed out.
You said he came over.
Something was late. Was it? Did I? Long story short,
I don't remember.
I probably had too many cocktails. Long story short, I woke up at like 8. And Doug,
don't give yourself that. It was 9 o'clock when you finally
it
responded.
was 8:57.
Still started with an 8. I'm sitting in the carport behind one of your trucks.
Hunting,
right? Oh man! And then finally went up in the shop and
So fast forward to
so fast forward the next weekend was this last weekend after that, and this would have been the 4th week after that I shot Junior. I went in there and I'd been having him come in randomly. I put another bag of food out on the Wednesday and Junior showed up probably 4 times in 2 days. It seemed like he was really getting hungry. Like it seemed like
when you shoot a deer,
strung him out.
The rut strung him out, and I think
this
injuring
was a long
getting
rut
shot.
this year too.
Made him
it was a super long rut.
When I get shot, I get super.
So
hungry
normally,
too.
those of you who know, blacktail rut usually starts like middle to late October, and then we'll run through like maybe end of November-ish, and then it's done.
Yeah. I mean, it had been going. It was still going, and it was after Thanksgiving.
And it went through Thanksgiving into December, even like the first.
It was like
weeks.
the first weekend, but the first weekend was like a second and third. But still, it went really late.
Yeah, into December.
And the fact that he was just showing up all the time was just.
He was hungry.
He was very, very hungry. So I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna give it a shot. Go in there Saturday. I didn't see anything on Saturday, but the weather was right.
So he wasn't on like a pattern at this point. He was just kind of coming
he
in.
Was not on, he was not on a pattern at this point. Beforehand, he was on like every 3 days. It seemed like he would be there like once or twice.
But it's funny because we had just talked about that, about the weekend thing, the Saturday thing. It was like it would always happen on a Saturday. He would show up in the daylight, right?
And that's what I'm saying is every time I would put new food out was right before the weekend.
Right.
It was either a Wednesday or a Thursday. I was putting new food out, and it was like clockwork. These deer were starting to get used to that.
Right.
So that Saturday didn't see anything, and I mean,
there's a chance.
There's a chance, but I don't know. It's like the mental game in my head is just like
the only thing you can do is go there.
You just have to put the time in. I mean, you're going to sit there all day long and not see a single thing, which I did a lot of times. And that after that hunt, I was like, I don't even know if I want to hunt the next day, in my mind. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it.
Yeah. I'm
going to do it. So I get up even earlier. And I mean, it's not getting light until like almost like 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Because you're the last guy, Doug, and we are giving you tons of shit.
It was December 17th. I mean, this is the latest I've ever shot anything.
To kill a big mature blacktail like
James
that.
and I are giving Doug tons of shit.
Yeah, it's like you can't be going to work. You need to be out there hunting.
We're like, Doug, quit your job. Come on. Kill this deer.
Oh my gosh.
You gotta kill him.
Quit sending me pictures. It's like I can't help it.
Yeah.
So December 17th, I get up super early.
After spending an entire day.
Yeah, from dark to dark, and not seeing a single thing. It's tough to do. Dude. And this December.
Right.
I tried to give you a little bit of a pep talk, like, Doug, tomorrow might be the day. You're like, God, you said something like, Lord, I hope so, or something. Because if it doesn't happen, I don't know.
It was bringing me down. I was in a dark place. It was really tough. I had shot this buck, and oh man, I didn't know what to do with myself. So I just kept trying.
It's so good.
The day finally comes. I get over there, and I had a doe and a yearling that had been there. Seemed like every single day. I think they were local deer. They pretty much live there. Mm-hmm. They were there like right when I got there, so like trying to get into my blind was kind of like shit, like I gotta try and sneak in here. I know they don't care because I've literally walked straight to my blind where they've been standing there eating on my bait, and it just kind of like run off to where you can't see them,
right? And
then I'll get in my blind, and then they'll come right back.
They're probably just used to.
They're used to me, literally, yeah. Which to that doe, it doesn't really bother me, but if it was like a buck in there, I don't want to associate myself with them like kind of seeing me.
Right.
So I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to try and sneak in there. And it was like dark. And I'm not going to turn on a flashlight or nothing. I'm just going to walk in there in the dark because I know where I'm going. Mm-hmm. It's just down this road and then kind of like in the trees a little bit. So I started walking in there. And I could hear them. They had like walked off into the brush, and I could hear them walking through the stuff. I'm like, all right, whatever. They're over there. They're gone. Cannot have to worry about it anymore. Finally get in my blind. I sit down, wait all morning. It's like, I don't know, 9 o'clock. I'd already slept probably an hour and a half worth, because I got in my blind in the dark. So I slept until it got light. Because I think I got in my blind at like 6:30 and it didn't get light until like almost after 7:30. So, and then not only that, it's cold. You're not looking at anything other than squirrels.
Doug's sleepy.
I'm like on my phone trying to stay awake at the same time. And while I'm sitting there on my phone, I'm taking a glance up at my bait to see if there's anything in there, because from the left side, if the deer comes in from the left side, I can't see them until they're right on my bait because of that flat spot, because they can come around it and then you can see them. Well, I'm sitting there on my phone, and then I look up and I see Rack. He just put his head up and then put his head down, and I'm like, oh shit. And immediately I put my phone in my pocket and turned the camera on, and I was like, it's game time, right? Yeah. And he literally had just shown up. I just somehow caught him like when he had just shown up. And I sat there, I shit you not, for 25 minutes until he finally gave me a shot.
Wow.
I held it together for 25 minutes.
That's pretty impressive.
Dude.
Before he gave me a shot. And then once he finally did, oh man.
Hammer time?
Hammer time.
Hammer time.
So you're sitting there for 25 minutes just watching him.
He's trying to hold myself together. Like I'm like, knowing like, okay, here comes the buck fever.
And you know it's him.
I know it's him.
Yeah. So you're like, he's back.
He's definitive. I mean, he's huge. Yeah. Like, it's hard to not know. I wonder if that's Junior. No, it's it's junior.
So in that 25 minutes, did you draw at all?
No, not once. I only drew one time, and that's when I let my arrow fly.
Really?
Yeah, because when he came in, he stopped and he never moved. The only time he ever moved was he picked his head up.
You didn't think about shooting him in the neck?
I did that on the first shot, and that's what got me in trouble. So he finally, and he actually turned around, and it looked like he was about to walk back out the same way he came in. And if he would have done that, I would have been in real trouble. And I was literally like in my mind thinking, if he walks this way, I'm literally going to jump out of this blind and go like run over there kamikaze style.
Right.
Because I'm not letting this buck get away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, please, Lord God, just turn this deer and put him 2 steps, right?
Right.
Sure enough, he takes the 2 steps over to where I am and give him the old meh.
No, it wasn't meh. It was meh. The deer like startled the deer. Like, oh, jeez.
Yeah, in the film, in the footage, you can see that it startled him for sure.
He like jumped out of his skin for a second. It was like, whoa, what was that? But it did stop him.
And then I was hunting with a bow, and I let her rip, and he was probably 30 yards at this point because he was just past my bait, and he was literally about to walk away, like for good. Stopped him, let her fly, and I compensated this time for the duck because I knew that it was probably going to happen again.
I was shocked how much he ducked the arrow because were you shooting your heavy bow?
Mm-hmm.
So Doug's shooting an 80-pound bow.
Yeah, but I'm also shooting
You're shooting a heavy arrow, but at the same time, you're shooting an 80 freaking pound bow.
Yeah.
Like,
my arrows are still pretty quick.
This deer ducked, 8 inches at least.
At least on the first shot.
Yeah.
The first time I shot him, it was at least 8 inches by the time the arrow got
the second shot, he had a pretty good duck too. When he killed him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not only did he duck, but for some reason, like Chris had that problem. He hit that buck in the elbow. I did the same thing.
Freaking elbow.
Same exact thing.
Like
because when they jolt, they kick that leg back.
Yeah. And if you look at the arrow path of my arrow in slow-mo, the arrow, when he ducks down, is literally going to go right into his heart.
Mm-hmm.
But the broadhead literally clipped the tip of his elbow, and it deflected down, and it hit like the bottom of the brisket.
Right.
And it hit the other leg on the other side. But I think when he finally took off, the arrow kind of pulled back into him. And then when he took off, the broadhead was inside of him, and the arrow was going up and down, and it just trashed him.
Yeah, because it was hard to tell if it was like you hit the artery or if it hit, I was thinking, man, how did it hit the lungs? But that totally makes sense. I think it pulled it back in.
Yeah.
He only went, 30 yards or something like that?
Yeah.
Well, he ran about 30, 40 yards. Yeah. And then there was this down tree across the trail. And as soon as he jumped over that tree, it snapped the arrow off. Because I found my arrow right before that tree.
Really?
And the blood, and immediately after I shot him, after the time before that, I was like, okay, let's go see if there's blood, like instantly right next to the bait. Didn't see any right there at the bait. I knew where he went, so I kind of walked that way. And I started finding blood like immediately, but it was just like spots, like little tiny spots. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go again.
You're like, oh no.
And the funny thing is like the first time I shot him, I was super jacked. I was screaming like, yeah, I got him. This time I shot him and I didn't say a peep. I'm like, I'm not going to say anything. You're all jacked up for nothing.
Right.
So I walk down there. I find the arrow. I'm like, okay, this is good. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to give it a little bit. And just on the other side of the tree from where I could see before I went and kind of look, I saw like a huge spot of blood. I'm like, okay. Gave it about an hour. Went and stripped down all my camo because I had like 4 or 5 layers on. I had
You're napping. You're napping.
Napping. Yeah, it was sitting there. You're cold. So I get back down there, and as soon as I get on that big spot of blood, that arrow must have snapped off, and it just unleashed everything out of his body cavity because it was literally like a line.
Really?
For about 30 yards. He went about 20 more yards down the trail, took a left, and went about 10 yards, and he was done.
Toasted.
Just done. He was probably done in 5 minutes from when I shot him.
Smasher blacktail.
Big 4x4. The coolest thing about him is he's 100% symmetrical.
Mm-hmm.
Like
within an inch probably on each side. Symmetrical.
I think to me, I mean, I've shot a fair amount of blacktail here in Western Washington, and they're not big. They're not big deer, period. Right?
No.
Like physically, they're not big deer body wise. Antler wise, they're typically not big deer either. And when they do get big, they're very basket buck. They come together like a wide deer. Like if you went like tip from the front of the antler, like the buck that I shot is like 8 inches wide. You know, it's not a big deer
from the front tips. Yeah.
They're not wide deer, period.
No.
And your deer was like 20 inches freaking wide, which it may not sound big to a lot of people, but that's freaking huge for a blacktail.
Yeah.
Huge.
He was, I think, 18 and a half to his widest point on the outsides. And then from the front tips, he was 17 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So when he went out and got wide, he stayed wide.
Yeah.
So he kicked out like that. Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of mass.
Yeah. Dandy buck.
Yeah.
Should have let him grow another year.
With my luck, Jim. Oh, man.
I'm just kidding, Doug. All these guys on the internet, I would have let him grow another year. Shut up.
You know what I would have done?
You would have never seen him again if
you know what I would have done? Shot him as a 2-point in my yard.
Yeah, right. And what an adventure that was. I mean, it was just
such a cool story.
And the funny thing is I never got buck fever.
Really?
Until I got over here.
Yeah, and then Doug started
I showed up to James, and I get out of the truck, and I'm like, I got him, Jim! I got him!
I feel like I'm going to throw up.
I literally just sat through it took me like almost 2 hours to get up here from where I was because I sat through an hour of traffic.
Really?
Just with this dead buck in the back.
With a dead buck in the back of my truck. I'm just like, no excitement at all.
Really?
Yeah. It was the craziest thing. Like I had like a adrenaline rush dump just like immediately.
You didn't realize what you had done.
No.
Yet.
Yeah.
Dandy buck.
And I get here and I'm like, Jim, I did it.
You got him. It's a lifetime's worth of waiting and hunting big bucks.
And I mean, it was definitely not the most physical hunt, but the mental struggle of that, like, I don't know. It's so hard to deal with.
Hey, I was in the middle of a hike with my family, and obviously Doug had called me.
Right.
We went back and forth, and then we were texting back and forth, and then he sent me a picture of it dead. And I was in the middle of the hike with the kids, and I was like, yes! Yes! And Tiffany's like, what are you doing? I'm like, Doug got him! He got him! And then I was like showing the kids, and like, yeah! They don't even know what's going on. They're just like, yeah, big buck dead. I'm like, that's Doug's. Doug got him.
Yeah, Doug.
And then I took all the pictures, and then Chris is giving me shit because it makes it look small.
I did. I was like, quit taking all the pictures of your buck with yourself.
And it was funny
because person to do it.
Because I shot him, I drug him out of the brush, probably 40 feet, and then it just so happened that my buddy that lives there, he was home. So I'm like, hey, come down here. And he comes down there with his tractor.
Nice.
They load him up in the tractor.
The best.
And put him right in the back of my truck with the tractor. It's like almost zero effort, right? You know?
You're like, perfect.
This is what I'm talking about. I put all this mental struggle into this deer. and he's literally given me the easiest
That's-
pack out.
That's what it's all about.
You know, couldn't ask for anything better. Come over here, get to celebrate with the buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And then tonight we finally cut them up and we got to feast on some of the reward. And good Lord, he is mighty tasty.
We ate a lot of it tonight too. I don't think you people realize how much meat we ate tonight. This little pile that we started with,
That was like
that's like half of what we ate, maybe, if that, because we probably more than half.
well, your daughter ate that much.
I know. We had my daughter out here.
probably
She
ate-
was eating like
we probably
a whole
ate
plate.
like 5 pounds of
Dude, we
meat,
easily ate 5 pounds. Easily.
and it
We
was
ate
just so good.
two entire. I think we ate both tenderloins. Sorry, Doug.
I know, that's okay.
And I think we ate like a big chunk of backstrap and then some random meat. Dude, it was
so good.
All of it was good.
it was good.
And
Really
it
good.
didn't taste all rutted up either.
No, not at all. I mean, he's been eating corn for a long time, so
He didn't have a lot of fat on him at all. I mean, he had
nothing,
used
dude.
up all that.
And the coolest thing about it, that we didn't touch on that at all, about the wound itself.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it was cool because it was like completely healed
up.
over.
Perfectly healed,
Yes, perfectly
No
healed.
infection.
No infection whatsoever.
which
Uh,
was crazy.
It had like a little, I wouldn't call it a cyst. What would you call that? Like a,
It was just like a little bubble. So like in the silver skin on the backstrap, I cut it off, and I thought for sure there was going to be some sort of like pus or smell or something because it went through the backstrap, like very clearly through the backstrap.
Right through the center of it.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And so like you have if you've ever, cut up your critter. So there's a pretty thick layer of silver skin on that backstrap. So I cut it off, and there's like a 2-layer right there, right? And so the top one that has like this, and it totally looks like some sort of like cyst pustule type thing.
Yeah.
And I very carefully like take that layer of silver skin between that other layer of silver skin, and I pull it back and I smell it, and
Nothing.
nothing.
it's just all it was scar tissue.
It was it was like hard.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a lump of scar tissue, and I'm like, how is this possible? Like not even a month later, 0 infection,
Mm-hmm.
completely healed.
Completely healed over.
It was crazy
Yeah.
and mind blowing.
and even the entrance wound through the hide was completely healed up too.
Yep. It was a scar.
It was a scar.
The hair wasn't there.
The hair wasn't there. It was a scar, and there looked like a teeny bit of blood that had like dried up into like a scab. That was
Mhm.
left. That was it.
That's crazy.
And then on the other side where the arrow came out, I never
couldn't
was
find it.
able to find
Mhm.
the exit hole in the
We
hide.
found like a spot on the hide where that was like
Right.
a little bit, like it wasn't even like a scar. It was just
Yeah.
like, it was like something I think might have
It was
happened
hard to
here.
tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like
amazing.
when I was cutting the backstrap, it was like
Predators
you
are
could
amazing.
barely even tell that the backstrap was damaged.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah. The arrow
Super
went
cool.
through and through.
And we
Man.
found another interesting thing on that buck.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. As we were
This-
doing
the
the
last-
processing, it was like one of the last pieces of meat that I was going through. And I find this little like grayish lump in the piece of meat. And I'm like, what is this?
Right on the edge.
It's
of the,
like I've shot a lot of birds, and like picked out bird shot before. So I'm like, this kind of is reminding me of something. I'm like,
Mhm.
hey guys, what is this?
And so Doug comes over to me and he's like, what's this right here? And I'm like, I feel it. And I'm like, man, it's hard. And I take my knife and I just like kind of like cut around it. And sure as shit, it's a 177 cal pellet that was lodged in the tenderloin.
Clear as day, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have it. I'll post
Totally
a picture of it
a-
at some point.
Someone put a pellet in a pellet rifle and shot. I mean, a good pellet rifle too,
Oh yeah,
because it was lodged in the tenderloin.
Yeah, someone tried to shoot this buck. I don't know if it was like, hey, get out of my garden.
I
If
think it was like a
kid,
hey, get out of
maybe.
my garden type
Yeah.
of thing. But at the same time, like they shot it with like a super power.
So as far as we know, it's definitely anti-hunters from Washington Wildlife First that shot that pellet gun into this thing because they were trying to protect their garden. So
Yep. 100%.
Well, I did you guys a service, and I took care of that buck for you, so you don't have to worry about your garden anymore.
You're welcome.
So you're welcome.
Yeah. Last
And-
piece of meat.
And Chris is going to go after that last piece.
There's a little baby piece
There's
in
a
there.
little piece in there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so this season was definitely one for the books.
Mhm.
We all shot blacktails this year, which is pretty crazy here in
Pretty
Washington.
crazy.
The way we started with all of our plans, it's crazy we all ended up with blacktails.
Yeah,
That's the good thing about having a multi-season.
we
100%.
you start with these like grandiose plans of like,
This is what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
This is how it's gonna go down. But
it's like, I got 20 points. Oh, I got 20 points. I got 20. Oh, we're going to create these great tags. And then you realize that our state's run by a bunch of shitheads and you never get drawn for anything, which I never will after saying that. So, you just shoot blacktail in your yard.
And that's okay.
And it's great. It was a great time. I had a really good time.
I
Because
like
they're
shooting
delicious.
blacktails.
Yeah.
If you go into my garage, you can see that I don't care. I like shooting blacktails. Oh. And I like putting meat in the freezer.
yep.
So we should probably wrap this up. We've been going a while.
So
Yeah.
back to the February 9th.
February
February
9th.
9th, releasing our film.
Come and join us. Have some fun. Maybe have a beer or two, and
We'll talk some hunting
we'll
stories.
talk
and
some hunting and enjoy the film and maybe win something.
So tickets are going to be on sale through the Lincoln Theater in Mount Vernon, Washington. Sorry, I have a mouthful of blacktail right now. It's delicious.
And we'll put the link up on our website and also on the Instagram.
Yep.
Once that comes available.
It's $25. What you get with that is we're going to give away a bunch of stuff. We have tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff to give away. We have stuff from a bunch of our sponsors, Loophole, hopefully, Montana Knife Company and Black Rifle Coffee and Caribou Gear, potentially Benchmark Barrels, Tamrac, Hunter Orange, and then even Cantrell Outdoors is going to have some firearms there. So it'll be worth your while just to show up. Even if you don't want to watch a film, you could still win some super cool stuff. So I think it's going to be a really good time.
It'll be good fellowship with everybody.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm. I think that
Can't wait.
it's going to be a good time, and you guys should all be there.
And what I didn't mention was that a portion of the proceeds. So we
Oh,
did
yes.
we did
Yes.
we did a big fundraiser for Sportsman's Alliance, and those of you who are not up to snuff on Sportsman's Alliance are the ones who sued the State Fish and Game Commission, which we're a big fan of because our Fish and Game Commission is very much anti-hunting and they're trying to take away all of our hunting heritage. So we are going to kick in some money to Blood Origins, to Robbie.
Mm-hmm.
And so a portion of the proceeds from this film is going to be donated to Robbie. So the more people that show up, the more people that spend money on the raffles and the games and all this other stuff we have, the more money that's going to go to Blood Origin. So we would appreciate that as well.
And, Blood Origins is a really good organization who focuses their message on the perception of hunting,
And the importance of it.
And the benefits of it.
Mm-hmm.
And not only to hunters, but also to mostly their focus goes on to the non-hunting community and trying to get that message across. So,
Right.
And I really do think that is our biggest battle that we face as hunters today.
And we're hoping that this film brings a lot more people to the understanding of why we do it.
Yeah, exactly.
All
right,
Doug.
Bring us home.
Well, like we said before at the beginning, this is our last podcast of the year. We're wrapping up this season since this is December and the holidays are coming up. And we'll be starting another season here come after the holidays. But until then, stay humble and hunt hard.